sensitive issue, but we will continue to follow, and whatever we can share, we will do so.
And moving on, the Tamil Nadu government has declared the closure of schools and colleges in Chennai district due to the ongoing relief efforts following the heavy rains caused by cyclone Mikjong. Take a look at that. Some of those visuals from yesterday, the aerial footage showcasing the aftermath of cyclone Mikjong. Now, Chennai faces major flood situations, as stated by Union Home Minister Amit Shah as well. The Chief Secretary of the state, Shivdas Meena, reported that 9,000 officials from other districts are currently engaged in relief works, addressing water stagnation at about 350 locations and distributing food packets in affected areas. Meena noted significant improvements and assured 100% power supply by tomorrow evening. Bus and train services are gradually resuming, with train services from Chennai Central and Chennai Egmore back in operation. Prime Minister Narendra Modi directed the release of SDRF funds and approved a 561.29 crore urban flood mitigation project for Chennai specifically. Ladies and gentlemen, next up, let's shift our focus. It's the 63rd day of the West Asian conflict between Israel and Hamas. The latest updates from the war front next. The following content may contain visuals that are disturbing, graphic, or sensitive in nature. Viewer discretion is advised. This material is intended for mature audiences and may not be suitable for all viewers. Please exercise caution while watching, and if you find such content distressing, we recommend discontinuing viewing. This disclaimer is provided to ensure awareness and to prioritize viewer well-being. The war between Israel and Hamas has now entered its 63rd day. Let's get you the latest update from the war front on your screens first. Now, Israel continues heavy bombardment of the Gaza Strip. This, even as Israeli defense forces make raids across the West Bank area where situation is getting tense by the day. The Israeli defense forces say it has killed 2 senior officials in Hamas's intelligence division just this week. Meanwhile, in terms of diplomacy, Joe Biden has spoken to Benjamin Netanyahu over a phone call and has stressed the requirement of more aid to Gaza. This even as Anthony Blinken, United States' Secretary of State, says that he has noted a gap between Israel's intention to protect Gazan civilians and the actual results that we are seeing today. Now, Israel-Hamas is not close to another deal on the new humanitarian pause. This has also been corroborated by the White House, even as the United Nations aid chief says that there is no humanitarian operation that is taking place in southern Gaza. Israel's attacks on the Palestinian-run Gaza Strip have amounted to genocide, this being quoted by Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi. Now, Benjamin Netanyahu has also warned Hezbollah against escalating the fighting from Lebanon. But even as the humanitarian crisis widens, help continues to trickle in. Jordanian authorities dropped 2 tons of medical aid over Gaza on Wednesday and Thursday as medical supplies were running out amid Israel's continuous bombardment of the Strip. Only a fraction of Gaza's hospitals remain operational due to the Israeli bombing and the lack of fuel. Those hospitals which are functional are increasingly seeing new waves of the wounded. This even as United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres on Wednesday warned the Security Council of a global threat from the Gaza war. He also invoked Article 99 of the founding UN Charter that allows him to quote-unquote bring to the attention of the Security Council any matter which in his opinion may threaten the maintenance of international peace and security. On Thursday, people in Gaza were seen digging through the rubble and searching for bodies following Israeli strikes on the Rafah refugee camp in southern part of the Gaza Strip. Gazans were searching under smashed concrete in order to find those still missing from the strikes early on Thursday morning. Israeli troops were engaged in battles with Hamas in the largest city in southern Gaza, while thousands of displaced civilians sought shelter near Egypt and in a desolate seaside area of the enclave. United States President Joe Biden says there is much more assistance urgently that is required in Gaza during the call with Benjamin Netanyahu. Even as people dig through the rubble, trying to find their loved ones, for those that are feared trapped beneath this rubble, if they're alive. Well, Anthony Blinken has noted that there is a clear gap between Israel and its intention to protect Gazans and the actual results that you can see on your screens. This even as Israel announced that it had attacked dozens of targets as it engaged Hamas terrorists in the Gaza Strip's largest cities on Thursday. Multiple explosions were heard in Gaza Strip from southern Israel and smoke billowed from the ruins of the buildings. As you can see, far from the Strip, smoke continues to billow from where once was a Gaza skyline. Israel's incursions into Khan Yunis, they followed a ground operation in Gaza City in the north to eliminate Hamas terrorists who had attacked Israel and taken hostages ever since that onslaught on the 7th of October. F-16s continue the constant bombardment of the Gaza Strip. Gazans call it indiscriminate. Israelis say, well, we're trying to safeguard civilians as much as possible. The United States, a key mediator in this particular diplomacy and conflict, says there is a clear gap between the intentions of Israel and what's actually happening on the ground. Now, Israeli government spokesperson Ilon Levy said that he was not aware of investigators' findings that Israeli tank fire had killed Reuters journalist Issam Abdallah and wounded 6 others in Lebanon. He denied Israeli forces targeting civilians. He said, "We do not target civilians." In a televised briefing, he also added that we've been doing everything possible to get civilians out of harm's way. Well, the United States doesn't think to seem the same way. The Israeli government spokesperson was responding to a question about Reuters and its report on the killing of Reuters journalist by an Israeli tank. Listen in.
I'm not familiar with these specific reports, but of course the guiding principle of Israel's campaign against Hamas is that we uphold the principles of international law regarding proportionality, necessity, distinction. We target Hamas, we do not target civilians, and we've been doing everything possible to get civilians out of harm's way while we go after the terror monsters who perpetrated the October 7th massacre.
And around 800 high school students from across Israel traveled to Tel Aviv on Thursday to decorate menorahs on the eve of Hanukah in honor of the hostages still held in Gaza. The students wrote and designed messages on wooden stars of David, on which they placed candles and pictures of the hostages still in Hamas's captivity. They also released balloons into the sky above Tel Aviv. The country marked Hanukah, the first Jewish festival since the 7th of October and that onslaught that killed more than 1,200 Israelis, where more than 240 were taken hostage by Hamas.
How's it going anyway?
Meanwhile, Hamas leader Yahya told a rally in Gaza last year that Hamas would deploy fighters and rockets in a fierce strike on Israel, the nation that imprisoned him for 23 years. And then, on October 7th, the deadly Hamas attack actually did take place on Israel and showed his threat was real and not mere lip service.
Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar's speech in Gaza last year was no idle threat.
We will come to you with an endless number of rockets. We will come to you in a flood of soldiers without limit.
It sounded like crowd-pleasing hyperbole. But at this time, a secret plan had already been hatched for an assault on Israel, a country that jailed Sinwar for 23 years before he was freed and rose to the Hamas leadership. October 7 would be the deadliest day in Israel's history, in which the militants killed 1,200 people and took 240 hostages, Israeli tallies say. Israel has retaliated with bombardment and a ground invasion, killing at least 15,000 Palestinians. Sinwar spent half his adult life behind bars in Israel. He was jailed in 1988 for planning the abduction and killing of 2 Israeli soldiers and the murder of 4 Palestinian collaborators. This was the moment he was freed in 2011, one of more than 1,000 Palestinians released for a single Israeli soldier.
This is one of the biggest strategic events in the history of our people's cause in the past years. So we are living a moment of unusual joy.
Sinwar has been leading negotiations for prisoner swaps with hostages, sources say, and it's a personal issue. He has vowed to free all Palestinian prisoners Israel holds. Sinwar is a ruthless man, according to Michael Kubi, a former official for Israel's Shin Bet intelligence agency, who interrogated him for 180 hours in jail. The now 61-year-old militant leader was then in his late 20s, Kubi says, but dedicated to attacking Israel.
Yahya Sinwar was at the prison. He was the chief of the whole Hamas prisoners. They were sitting together. They make discussion inside the prison, of course, and they thought how to fight the Israelis, after they will be released. That was his plan.
Born in the Khan Yunis refugee camp, Sinwar rose to prominence as a hardline enforcer. Before jail, he was head of the Al-Majd security apparatus which tracked, killed and punished Palestinians accused of collaborating with Israel. Sources who know him, whether Hamas or Israeli, agree his devotion to the militant movement is extraordinary.
So he told me, the Hamas is my wife, the Hamas is my child, the Hamas for me is everything.
Sinwar is one of Israel's most wanted. This was Israeli Army Chief of Staff Herzi Halevi in October.
The one who decided on this despicable attack was Yahya al-Sinwar, the sovereign of the Gaza Strip. Therefore, he and the whole system under him are as good as dead.
Regional officials say Israel is unlikely to end the war until Sinwar is dead or captured. 2 military experts said that would be an important symbolic victory. But achieving it would be long and costly for Israel, with no guarantee of success. Sinwar Mohammed Daif, the mastermind of last month's assault, and a third commander, direct military operations, possibly from bunkers beneath Gaza, Hamas sources have told Reuters. Some tunnels are believed to be 80 meters underground, and Kubi says Sinwar wouldn't give up.
Even he will fight. I'm sure that Yahya Sinwar wouldn't leave the Gaza Strip.
Now, the Israeli army has also released footage that it claims shows operations against Hamas terrorists in the Gaza Strip. The videos include Israeli soldiers on the ground, and of course, it also includes aerial footage of explosions. This is IDF's expansive ground operations inside the Gaza Strip, ladies and gents. Israel also said on Thursday that it had killed a number of gunmen in southern Gaza's largest city, Khan Yunis, including 2 terrorists who emerged firing from a tunnel just a day after the Israeli troops entered the heart of the city. Meanwhile, Gaza's health officials said an Israeli airstrike had killed 4 people in a house in Nuseirat refugee camp in central Gaza Strip overnight, and another strike killed 2 people in Khan Yunis on Thursday morning. Well, shifting our focus to some top global developments next. And of course, let's shift our focus to United States, where President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, well, he's been indicted on 9 tax frauds. Hunter Biden faces 9 tax charges in California, escalating a special counsel investigation into the president's son amid the approaching 2024 elections. These new charges supplement existing federal firearms charges in Delaware related to a 2018 gun law violation. Now, previously anticipated to plead guilty to misdemeanor tax charges for unpaid taxes on $4 million in personal income from 2017 to 2018, Hunter Biden's defense signals a fight against the latest charges. The plea deal collapsed back in July, criticized by Republicans as a sweetheart deal, amid comprehensive scrutiny of Hunter Biden's business dealings and the Justice Department's case handling. And moving on, rail passengers in Germany are preparing for a potential disruption yet again as the train drivers' union, GDL, declared a nationwide strike. Deutsche Bahn spokesman Achim Strauss criticized the move, labeling it as unnecessary and irresponsible. He emphasized the impact on passengers during the festive Advent season in the run-up to the 25th of December and Christmas, and the strain on employees who have been diligently working to restore train services following last week's significant snowfall as well. Passengers in Cologne expressed their frustration at the cancellations but sympathized with train drivers wanting better working conditions.
This strike announcement came at a very short notice, and we find this strike unnecessary and also irresponsible towards our passengers who are looking forward to traveling by train during the Advent season, and also towards our employees and staff who are working very intensively on the timetable change at the weekend, but still have their hands full after the extreme weather in Munich to get train services back on track. And the GDL is also on strike against the German economy because the extreme weather in Munich also caused many backlogs of cargo trains, and we can only clear them up bit by bit.
And shifting our focus to the United Kingdom, where former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson on Thursday said the controversial government Eat Out to Help Out scheme had not been presented to him as something that could increase the spread of coronavirus during the pandemic. The discount scheme to boost spending at restaurants, cafes and pubs was launched by Johnson's government in the summer of 2020. Now, Boris Johnson expressed surprise at Chief Medical Officer Chris Whitty's characterization of the policy as Eat Out to Help the virus. Listen in.
At the time that the Eat Out to Help Out policy was being aired with me for the first time, it did not seem, it was not presented to me as an acceleration, simply something to make sense of the freedoms that we were already giving. And it was not, I must emphasize, it was not at the time presented to me as something that would add to the budget of risk.
Moving on, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov announced that Russian President Vladimir Putin and Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman have officially affirmed specific agreements established within the framework of an OPEC Plus deal. And moving on, a shooting in central Brussels left 4 individuals injured, according to police reports to local media. Authorities suggest the incident is more likely a result of personal disputes or vendettas, potentially related to drug trafficking rather than being an act of terrorism. Among the injured is a Swedish employee of the Moderaterna party, also a staff member of the Swedish MEP, Thomas Taube, as confirmed by the European lawmaker on social media platform. This particular incident that you're looking at on your screens occurred nearly 2 months following a prior attack in Brussels, where a gunman targeted Swedish fans during a football match in Belgium, resulting in the tragic deaths of 2 individuals. And Italy has officially informed China that it is leaving the Belt and Road Initiative, the BRI, dismissing fears that the decision could sour relations and damage the Italian economy.
Italy has officially told China it is leaving the Belt and Road Initiative. That's according to government sources on Wednesday. Italy became the first and so far the only major Western nation to join the trade and investment program, ignoring warnings from the United States that it might allow China to take control of sensitive and vital infrastructure. However, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni said when she took office last year that she wanted to withdraw from the deal. She said it had brought no significant gains to Italy. The 2019 accord expires in March 2024. An Italian government source said Rome would not be renewing the pact. China's Foreign Ministry's spokesperson Wang Wenbin told reporters on Thursday that the Belt and Road has enormous appeal and global influence, without singling out Italy for criticism.
China firmly opposes smearing and undermining cooperation in developing the Belt and Road Initiative and opposes confrontation and creating division among the camps.
More than 100 countries have signed agreements with China to cooperate on Belt and Road Initiative since it was launched in 2013.
Well, with the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict, many people are constantly boycotting all these Western brands. But meanwhile, McDonald's aims to achieve its most rapid expansion in history by opening approximately 10,000 global restaurants by the year 2027. Take a look at this next report for more.
McDonald's is set to supersize itself. The burger chain said Wednesday that it plans 10,000 new restaurants worldwide by 2027. That could make it the fast food giant's fastest ever period of expansion. The news came as McDonald's held a gathering for investors. It says many of the new outlets will be in overseas markets, with more than 3,500 just in China. The country is its second biggest market, and it recently struck a deal to gain greater control over its branches there. McDonald's has been largely unaffected by a choppy year for consumer spending in the US, thanks to its affordable menu. Chief Executive Chris Kempczynski said he was wary about making predictions for next year, but said the consumer had proved to be very resilient. Now the new expansion plan will see it hit about 50,000 restaurants worldwide by 2027. One analyst called the plan ambitious but exciting and said McDonald's has the capacity to pull it off. Among other initiatives, the chain is aiming to massively increase the number of people using its loyalty program. McDonald's is also partnering with Google Cloud to deploy AI systems in its restaurants. That should give it more visibility into each outlet, allowing it to identify cost savings and improve efficiency.
Meanwhile, legislation that would provide new security assistance for Ukraine and Israel was blocked in the United States Senate on Wednesday as Republicans demanded tougher measures to control immigration at the U.S. border with Mexico.
The U.S. Senate blocked an emergency spending bill on Wednesday, which would have provided billions of dollars in new security assistance for Ukraine and Israel. That's as Republicans insisted on tougher measures and more money to control immigration. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell said in a floor speech on Wednesday that Senate should, quote, start meeting America's national security priorities, including right here at home, referring to the illegal immigration at the U.S. border with Mexico. The bill, which includes $20 billion for border security, provides about $50 billion in new security assistance for Ukraine, as well as money for humanitarian and economic aid for the government in Kyiv, plus $14 billion for Israel. The final tally of votes was 49 in favor to 51 against, short of the 60 votes needed to start debate. Every Senate Republican voted no, along with Senator Bernie Sanders, an independent who expressed concerns about funding Israel's, quote, current inhumane military strategy. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, a Democrat, also voted no so that he could introduce the measure again in the future. The stalemate in negotiations about Ukraine and Israel funding has been going on for weeks. On Wednesday, Biden warned that a victory for Russia in Ukraine would put Moscow in a position to attack NATO allies and draw U.S. troops into war.
If Putin takes Ukraine, he won't stop there. It's important to see the long run here. He's going to keep going. History's going to judge harshly those who turn their back on freedom's cause. We can't let Putin win.
On the streets of Kyiv on Wednesday, residents said they were worried and already felt the pain from delays in Western military aid.
We already feel it. A friend of mine recently died fighting. We need to get the help as soon as possible. Every day of delay means loss of human lives. Yes, thanks to our partners, our defence is holding up. But regarding this issue, the congressmen need to speed up their actions because we all understand that we have less manpower than Russia.
Congress has approved more than $110 billion for Ukraine since Russia's February 2022 invasion, but it has not approved any funds since Republicans took over the House from Democrats in January. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's chief of staff said on Tuesday postponing U.S. assistance for Kyiv would create a big risk of Ukraine losing the war with Russia. Ukraine conducted a major counteroffensive push this year, but was unable to break through Russian defensive lines. Russia is now on the offensive in the east.
Moving on, Ivorian farmers faced severe damage to their cotton crops from an invasive species last year. In response, they employed chemical solutions this year, but researchers caution that this is merely a temporary fix.
Cotton has been bountiful in Ivory Coast's fields this season. And for farmers like Issouf Kabe Koulibaly, that's a welcome reversal of fortunes.
Last year we had a disease in the cotton called jacid, which really devastated all our cotton crops. So we had no cotton last year.
The Indian cotton jacid appeared as if from nowhere across much of Western Central Africa's cotton belt. The tiny grasshopper-like pest injects a toxin into the plant that led to a near 25% production slump in the 2022 to 2023 season, year on year. Some countries lost over half their forecast harvest. This season, the use of rapidly trialled and approved new insecticides has kept the jacid at bay. Yaradiu Masoro says his last harvest was around 2/3 smaller than usual.
If the medicine hadn't worked, we wouldn't have had enough cotton this year. Thank God we think a solution has been found. Even if the jacid disease still exists this year, it is late on our cotton, and we already have succeeded in our harvest.
The crisis has highlighted a regional vulnerability to invasive species, but it has also emphasized a reliance on chemical solutions. Research shows that such pesticides will not protect crops in the long term. Cotonou Falaise is an agricultural advisor in the Korogo district.
Any product that is used on a pest over a long period of time, if there is no improvement in the product, at some point the pest will develop resistance to it.
Known cases of resistance in the jacid have been reported in India and Pakistan, according to an industry group. But in Ivory Coast, farmers need to balance the long-term consequences of pesticide use with the short-term need to put food on the table. Thierry Brevo of French Agricultural Research Centre CIRAD said farmers could not have afforded to lose another 30 to 50% of production, and that insecticides were the obvious choice. But he warned eventually these products won't work. He said the priority should be measures including developing pest-resistant cotton varieties and learning how to tackle jacids at different parts of their life cycle. Without such long-term solutions, researchers warn that West Africa's cotton bounce may be short-lived.
And away from agriculture, in the domain of artificial intelligence, Google has unveiled Gemini, its latest AI model designed to emulate human behavior more effectively than the previous models. Now, Gemini excels in tasks such as comprehension, summarization, reasoning, coding, and planning. Available in 3 versions, the Pro, the Ultra, and the Nano. Its Pro version is already out, with the Ultra version set for an early release next year. Currently, Google has integrated the new Gemini Pro with its chatbot Bard, which is a direct competitor of ChatGPT. Users can have a text-based interaction with Gemini-powered Bard, but Google has promised support for other modalities soon. The new update is available in 170 countries and territories, but it is limited to only English at the moment. And pharmaceutical giant Sanofi unveils 12 drugs in development, aiming for over $1 billion in annual sales each. This follows CEO Paul Hudson's departure from margin targets, sparking investor concern. Now, the company now anticipates $10 billion in yearly sales by the year 2030. Take a look.
Sanofi has 12 drugs in development which could one day make more than $1 billion in annual sales. The French drug maker made the announcement Thursday. Sanofi said the new candidates include 9 medicines and vaccines with potential sales of between $2.2 to $5.4 billion. Sanofi's update comes just over a month since its stock plunged 15%. Investors were concerned when CEO Paul Hudson unexpectedly abandoned margin targets for 2025. Markets have since looked for clarity on how much he plans to boost the company's research and development budget. The drug maker said it expected its recently launched and future pharmaceutical assets to generate more than $10 billion of yearly sales by 2030. Sanofi sees top-selling anti-inflammatory drug Dupixent as delivering low double-digit annual sales growth up to the start of the next decade. Analysts said the new guidance for the product implied 2030 sales of about $23.7 billion, more than $2 billion above expectations. Sanofi shares gained 1% shortly after markets opened Thursday, but traced back shortly after.
And in a bold move, Renault has planned on cutting production costs by 2027, aiming for a 30% reduction in combustion engines and half for electronic vehicles. The French automaker emphasizes industrial transformation for enhanced agility and competitiveness.
Renault plans to cut production costs per vehicle. The French carmaker said Thursday that cuts would come between now and 2027. It aims to reduce costs for internal combustion engines by 30% and by half for electric vehicles. Renault called the move an industrial transformation. The automaker further said the cost cuts would make the firm more agile and competitive. Renault also said it would make 4 new models at its Bursa site in Turkey. Thursday's update comes in the same week its alliance partners Nissan and Mitsubishi announced plans to help out with EVs. The auto giants said they would invest in Renault's EV unit Ampere and use it to develop electric vehicles for the European market. Renault has a long-standing alliance with both Japanese companies.
And amidst ongoing toxic smog in Lahore, once framed as the city of gardens, and a surge in the pediatric patients that can be seen now has pretty much flooded a public hospital's emergency rooms. Parents cradle nebulizers, enveloping their children's faces in medicinal steam to alleviate respiratory distress caused by the city's severe air pollution. Health authorities note a staggering 50% increase in pediatric cases linked to worsening air quality over the past month. Let's hear what exactly is going on in Lahore from the health experts.
Smog these days is affecting a lot of children, particularly the school-going age is most likely affected with that. These children present with complaint of cough, night exacerbations of cough, early morning cough. Apart from that, they have nasal discharge, rhinorrhea, they are having breathing difficulties. If our OPD was, for instance, of 10,000 in the last month, from them, like around 6,000 to 7,000 a patient presented to us with a complaint of upper respiratory tract or lower respiratory tract infection. Right. So it has increased a lot, the numbers have.
Our pediatric hospitals, they are overwhelmed with burden from the respiratory issues. In any case, the most common cause of infant mortality, obviously we are struggling to meet sustainable development goals here. The neonatal mortality is mainly driven from gastrointestinal disease and then respiratory disease.
Previously, we used to see that, the preeclampsia or the increased blood pressure that was mostly associated, it had a seasonal variation with hot or weather or summers. But now we're also seeing that more cases of, hypertension are coming in winters as well. So we were, a bit like concerned, like how is this? There is a shift of, high risk of hypertension in winters. Why is it so? So one of the explanation can be that smog could be causing it.
And embracing the festive spirit, the Sarajevo Festival of Lights has brought a dazzling glow to the botanical garden of the National Museum in the Bosnian capital, just in time for Christmas. Now, the lights displays in the National Museum and the Botanical Garden beautifully reflects the treasures housed within the museum. With one of the world's largest collections of butterflies, the museum's thematic influence extends to all 12 items showcased in the Festival of Lights. Running till the 1st of March, the festival features light installations that celebrate Bosnia's rich culture and natural heritage. Drawing inspiration from renowned international events in cities like New York, London and Berlin, Sarajevo's festival is a radiant testament to the city's resilience and diverse history. And moving on to the world of sports, where Nick Kyrgios is notably absent from the Australia Open's main draw, delivering a setback for the organisers as well. The 2022 Wimbledon finalist has faced a challenging 2023 marked by various injuries. Just last month, Nick hinted that only if the stars align would he be fit for the Grand Slam next month. Unfortunately, Nick Kyrgios' agent couldn't provide an immediate comment on this unexpected development. Now, on a positive note, two-time champion Rafa Nadal, he is back in action and has been named in the draw. He recently confirmed his participation in the Brisbane International after recovering from a long injury layoff. Meanwhile, the defending champion Novak Djokovic is all set to make history by aiming for his record-extending 11th title at the Melbourne Park and his 25th Grand Slam overall. In the women's singles, world number 2 Aryna Sabalenka will be defending her title. Notable comebacks include former champions Naomi Osaka, Caroline Wozniacki and Angelique Kerber, all making their return to Melbourne Park after taking time away from the tour, well, to take care of their children. Now, as the excitement builds for the Australian Open, the absence of Nick adds an unexpected twist for the upcoming tournament. And ladies and gentlemen, before we wrap up this edition of Top Stories, let's take a look at the picture of the day today. On your screens, young ones, high school students, pretty much everybody from all the parts of Israel traveled to Tel Aviv to protest ahead of Hanukah for the hostages that are still in Hamas's captivity.
With all this gear, you must be wondering if I'm climbing a mountain. Well, let me give you a wider look of this place. This is Asia's largest mountain of shame.